Okay. So here we are in episode number 2, talking about my implant. So in episode number 1, I did the first presentation where we talk about the basic structure, some of the evasive capabilities, and just some of the features in overall. Also, we scan the implant with all the memory scanners possible, and we see that it doesn't present any IOC on memory, and that the evasive capabilities are extremely good. But what about performance? Because you may be wondering, okay, so yeah, it's awesome that the implant can evade pretty much everything and that it behaves really good. But what about what can it do? So today we are gonna talk about some of the basics command for enumeration. So let's come here. I gonna use any implant. I have a couple of them running. Let's use one for spamming a shellcode, and then we go with that. So I don't know. Let's use, it can be any one. Let's grab one of the shellcodes that I have already upload here. Let's spawn on a new agent. I am here on my other session, on the RDP session, so we can check anything in case something happened. So this is where we are right now. Let's see. I'm spamming a new implant. This one is 9036. It's gonna be the pit. So we have it here. Awesome. So let's start. So if we do a help, we can see a bunch of commands. We have too many commands. You can go there and look at each of them. But today we're gonna talk about the built-in commands, because most of these commands are buff wrappers that are just gonna run the cuff loader command, and it's a wrapper for that. As you can see, you are a little bit related with the, I don't know, the Cobalt Strike, or you have played with a little bit with the other C2 frameworks. You know that the biggest one, the big C2s, has support for cuff loaders. And in case of Cobalt Strike, you can use just a CNA script. You just load it, and you have a beautiful wrapper that you can run the command. Here is something similar that I did. So these, for example, these commands, string reaper, DCS, and those are from the trusted sec that I showed in the last presentation. Those are just buff. So my implant is gonna load those in memory. But in this video is not about that. This video is about the basics command. So let's start with the basics. Basics command that I can say, ls, of course, is pretty much one of the commands, most important command that a C2 must have, an agent must have, because in operations, even if you don't believe me, most of the time you are gonna be browsing shares and just trying to find credentials or something like that, or just, I don't know, just going around the file browser. So the good thing about that is that I also add support for the Mythic UI file browser. So if we do, like, let's first do a pwd to see where directory we are right now. This is another built-in command. Oh, let's see. Let's also lower a little bit the sleep time so we don't spend too much time here. So we are on the G directory. So if we do ALS, if we don't pass any arguments, it's gonna list the current directory. Okay. So let's see. As you can see, we're here. And something that is really beautiful here is the fact that in my case, I didn't, if you are a little bit related with programming in Windows or on the Windows internal, you know that, for example, listing a directory is not very simple. You usually need to use the common API for that, which is find first file and find next file. And then for when you get like the handle to the file, you open the handle, query the system time, query the last change time, and stuff like that. And the beauty of this is that recently I have been diving a lot into the NTDLL, because the NTDLL is like the most important, we can say, DLL for userland ring. and it's not documented, so it is a pain. But if you really deep into that, you can understand some stuff. And if you are, if you are able to reverse some of the functions from NTDLL, you can use some of those functions and avoid using the Win APIs. So my implant at the moment is in most of the commands, I would say 95% of the commands is using NTDLL functions. So it has two advantages. One is stealthiness, because we are not using any Win APIs, even for just easy stuff like listing a directory in any security product is gonna care about if somebody is listing a directory. It's not a normal behavior, but it's not something, it's not a big IOC, right? But let's say in the perfect world, and what I have said, that the purpose of my implant is stealthiness. So my implant uses just NT APIs for that. So also the second advantage is that the the performance is, it's much better, because of course we are closer. As you may know, any Win APIs, most of them at the end of the day are going through the NTDLL. So if we go straight to the NTDLL, things are going to be much faster. So my implant, also the power that you can get, most of the structures from the NTDLL are very complex. So for example, right here, I'm just calling one API, one single API, which is an anti-query directory file, and it returned me a bunch of information that I will need to do if I want to grab all this information with a bunch of Win APIs, because they don't have the power, and of course it's not stealthy at all. But with this API, and it is pretty much the same for all the other commands that my implant support, because they are just based on NT APIs. You have more power, you have more information. Of course, those are not documented, so you have to go to, in my case, I'm doing with IDA, go there with patients, and with the time you start, I don't know, reversing the NTDLL and understanding how it works. And it is a process, but hey, let's not lose the focus. So here, as you can see, we can list the directory. The other thing that I say is that you can use the file browser formatting, which is awesome. So you can go here, we just list the G, and as you can see, you have everything here. So you can go, I don't know, let's go to a directory, you can list it, and this is really comfortable from the perspective of an operator, because you can just be here a lot of the time. You know that your implant is well obfuscated on memory, you won't have any problems, and you can just go there, I don't know, keep doing your stuff. This also support download, so it's really, really, really comfortable. Okay, and you save your, let's say you want to download this file, so you download it, and this is really good. So, and then when you download, you have like a preview, and this is all from Meeting. This is not my job. The file browser is stuff from Meeting, but adapted to the implant is really difficult, because you have to pass a specific structure. But okay, let's go back. So we already talked about PWD and LS. We also have CD, which is something that we have been doing. So you can CD to any directory. This is normal stuff. Okay, we also have the PS command, which is special. You will see why. And it is because in my case, I am not, if you are in low integrity, you have to, unfortunately, for the protection of the CFG, also to query the username, you have to open a handle to the process, even if it's low handle, because it's just to query, it's a limited handle. But in the case you are in a high integrity, I'm using an NT API, which you don't really need to open the handle to the process, which is awesome. And as you can see, I am just, the PS command is really well structured. It just provides the protection, also the basic stuff, the PID, the process name, PPID, session, architecture, user, in case you don't see the user, of course, you don't have enough privilege. And two things that for me are important, because sometimes it's important to keep this in mind when you are dealing with extra processes, are the protection. In case they are protected processes, you must know it. In this case, we cannot query that, because of course we are in a low integrity, but I will show you that in future videos. And the CFG, because control flow guard is a pain. And my agent has something special, which is the ability to remove the CFG in new processes, which is something that is not even documented. I haven't even seen that. I think the only one that support that is Brute as long as I know, and there is no documentation about how to remove a CFG into a new process, that the original process has to be run in CFG. Because, for example, most of the Windows processes has CFG by default enabled, like Notepad, WMI, everything, Workflow, DLL host, all these has CFG. As you can see, enable. These are third-party processes that they don't have it enabled, but my implant can spawn processes which has the CFG disabled by default, even if the process needs to have it enabled. Okay, so another basic command that we have is netstat. This is another built-in command. And I built that one because it's really important to have like a awareness of what are the connections happening in your system. Okay, we have IRP. You can see we can grab more information. This is a built-in. This video is just for built-in commands. In the next video, we will talk more about the special commands and the offensive commands. This is just for reconnaissance. All right, so we have the ipconfig as well. You can see here. And this is pretty much what you need in for basic stuff, because as I said, my agent supports a really good cuff loader, and the cuff loader is gonna do the heavy lifting for all the things that you want to run. So let's say that, I don't know, you want to query or do something special with WMI. This will be extremely complex to implement into a into like a command itself into the agent, because it will take too much code. And the idea of my implant is to be as stealthy as possible, and that will bump up the code a lot. So those are like the basic stuff that you can run from the agent. You have other things that are more configuration. Oh, also that you have load library. This is one that I implemented during last week, because I was playing with some of the, when I was developing some of the capabilities for the cuff loader, I realized that some of the cuff, for example, let's talk about LDAP query, which is LDAP search, sorry, which is a really well-known cuff, which is to query the LDAP. For example, Elastic endpoint with all the call stack detection in the most aggressive way. If you load, for example, the WLDAP32, which is the library that is used by default to query the LDAP, if you load it from a unbacked memory region, it's gonna kill your implant. So I was trying to load that, and it was killing the implant. So since my agent has the ability to spoof any call stack with a valid call stack, you can just load the implant and be completely safe. The library before to run the buff and be completely safe. So you can load library, let's say WLDAP32, and it loaded. And you can list the DLLs. So you can see all the DLLs listed right now. Let's see that you can see it was loaded here. You can also load, this one is another one that Elastic doesn't like. So you must load it like that, and you will be fine. Oh, what is the name? Like that, right? Did I typo something? Oh yeah, I forgot the. Okay, so you can load it and you list it again, and you will be fine. And if you already have it in your process, for example, those call stack rules are not gonna complain, because, as I said, my implant has 3 ways of loading the library. So you can even change it with this command, like library technique, which is gonna help you to load the, you can see here, sorry, the library technique. This is for the load library itself, but you can use the technique. And this technique is also gonna apply for the buff. So if you have any any buff that you want to run in memory and it calls load library, it's gonna spoof the call stack. So it is really good because it's gonna avoid any kind of detection when calling a load library. But as I say, the WLDAV in that specific buff is not loaded by load library. Since it starts the com interface loaded with, I think, com initialize, and then the load library is called, it is loaded by other call stack, and the call stack is broken. That is why Elastic killed the process in that example. But as you can see, you can avoid that by just first loading the library and then that. And so finally, the last command that I want to share for this demo is drivers. You can find all the drivers on the system. It's something also that I think is important to know, because most of the time when you are dealing with an EDR, they probably have any drivers here, so you must want to know what is on the system right now. As I say, the beauty of the implant right now is that all the things that we are doing at the moment are using just NT APIs. We are now touching Win API for all. The only one that uses NT APIs is if you use load library technique with the argument by default, because it's gonna use load library, but it's gonna spoof the call stack as well. So it's not an IOC at all. But the rest are using NT API, so it allows the operator to be safe. Okay, so in the next video we will talk more about the other commands, and yep, that is basically it. I want to keep it simple, and we will keep working on the next video for that. Thank you.